Well, good morning, everybody. For the 11 people that are already in this live stream, you guys are troopers. I'm Andrew Dukowitz. This is the Missing Wolves postgame live stream podcast, whatever it is. Benny Hughes from Canis Hoopus is here, though, so that's always a good time. Benny, how's it going, man?
I'm doing all right, I mean, all things considered, like you said, it's either pretty early in the morning or extremely late for whichever you want to go for that you get to pick. So if you 11 people in the chat, you're the real sickos, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. But outside of what just transpired and all that we watched, I'm doing well, though. I'm doing well. I can't complain.
Yeah, I have some complaints.
All right. I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. I'll be your sounding board, Let's do it.
A 10 p.m. start for the Wolves to have one of those games where thankfully there's some people on the road, I believe, with this team, because I think, you'd like to think a game against the Lakers would be a game that they kind of get up for, but it certainly did not seem like that at all. I mean, maybe the first quarter, I guess you could say the defense was pretty good, but also like Luka was just missing shots.
Yeah.
I mean, Benny, what was your kind of vibe on like the temperament of this team tonight?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, I think that we talk about and we see a lot of like how they are a vibe-based team, for better or for worse. When things are rolling, they're doing great. But obviously these last two games, like once the 6-minute mark hit in the second quarter against Orlando, I think it was, like, it just seems like the previous, how many minutes would that be? 78 minutes. Did I do my math right? Around that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Those previous 78 minutes have just been an absolute train wreck. Like you said, like first quarter even, like, I mean, Lakers missed their first 11 shots, I think, and they only were up 5-0 after that, and that was a little bit of a bummer. But it just seems like they can kind of get stuck in these ruts, and then they just kind of feed on themselves, and it snowballs, for better or for worse, like I said. So, yeah.
Well, and again, like, it 21-16, they have a 5-point lead going into the second quarter. I think, I was kind of similar to you, where I'm sitting there going, this is a little obnoxious. Like, they have held Luka completely in check, and Ant is not having a good first quarter of basketball. And even at halftime, like, it kind of felt like, okay, this is one of those games where like everything went wrong in the first half, but they're still tied. And then that third quarter, I mean, woof, getting outscored 39-23. I mean, the Wolves shoot 35%. They go 2 of 10 from 3. They only have 8 rebounds in a quarter of basketball in the year 2026 when there's 100 shots every game. I mean, it was again, it just seems to be a thing with this team where when they decide, well, we're kind of done playing, it seems like it just goes pear-shaped in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like what I usually like to look at, especially like at halftime of these kinds of games, where it either feels closer than it should, or maybe like the Wolves are down by more than it feels like they should be, is you kind of look at the deficiencies. Like, I usually look at like 3-point percentage or like 3-point shooting, and then also like star player performance. And what's interesting in that was at halftime, it was about exactly the same, where both Ant and Luka were not having good games. And obviously Luka kicked it into gear more in the second half, and I would say down the stretch in the second quarter more so too. But they both weren't having the best of games, and they both were shooting terribly from 3, and it was a tie game. So I'm like, I honestly have no idea what's going to happen in the second half, because I would say, generally speaking, it's like, all right, the Wolves are up 8, but the other team is shooting 5 of 19 from 3. It's like, okay, you can kind of bake in a little bit of progression to the mean, or I think it is still regression to the mean, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And so usually those are kind of the couple things I look at, but then it was dead even. And then, like you said, they came out in the third quarter, and it was like I think that they flashed up on the broadcast like, oh, shooting percentage this quarter, and the Wolves were like 0 for 0 5 minutes into the quarter, and they had
Yeah.
7 free throws, and those were the only points they had. It's like, so it was all turnovers and free throws. Like that doesn't feel right either. So yeah, just bad stuff.
And again, like to your point, and I do want to catch up on chat really quick. Nat also has some complaints. Yes, I'm there with you. He's also a little grouchy that he stayed up until 1 a.m. watching this basketball team. Again, I'm with you there, Nat. Cole, who's going to step up when Ant has a bad game or a good one? Team is so bipolar. Yes, it is. It's just a bipolar team that is a really, they're either manic and they're beating a team by 30, or they're in that depressive state where they're just kind of absorbing body blows. What really kind of took me back on this game is Wolves only had 11 turnovers, which is like 11 turnovers. You expect the Wolves to win when that happens. You also look at the free throw disparity, 28-26. Wolves also shot a better percentage than the Lakers from the free throw line. Again, normally that's a win. I honestly like it was just Ant tonight. I mean, 1 for 10 in the first half, comes out in the second half. He only takes 5 shots the rest of the game, which it's like, you got to at least go down swinging. I mean, to his credit, he did get to the line quite a bit. He was trying to be aggressive, but I mean, I'm kind of willing to stamp it. This is probably Ant's worst game of the season. I mean, where are you sitting on that one, Benny?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, like you were talking about, 2 of 15 from the field, 1 of 10 from 3. Like, obviously the shooting numbers like back that up in terms of that. And what's weird with Ant is usually like you see that maybe like for stretches, like short stretches of the game, but then at some point like he kicks it into gear and kind of has like a takeover, even if it's just like 5 minutes of him like scoring 12 points or something like that and giving a spark. That just never came. And I just really hated the shot selection night, especially early on, where it was like first quarter, Lakers are missing a bunch of shots and you're kind of just bailing them out. Like you're taking step-in threes that are out of rhythm, that maybe you took 2 or 3 dribbles too many, that took you out of rhythm, and you never established that, and then it's so hard to get that back. So then even when you're looking in the third quarter, you're like, okay, step in, pull up 3, that's Ant's bread and butter. It's like he's short rimming it, and it's like that makes sense because you never established a rhythm early on in the game. So, yeah.
And I mean, like you said, no rhythm early in the game, and then you can tell again, Ant 5 shots in the second half is just, I mean, it just can't happen. I'm not sure. I mean, he played 12 and a half minutes. Like, yes, they emptied the bench out early, but like, he's just got to kind of try anything. I mean, you look at the second half leaders, Terrence Shannon led them in points, which is just like wild. That's where we're at tonight. That Terrence Shannon is probably the good takeaway. I mean, Cole mentions the gap help. Marcus Smart was, solid tonight. Running with Wolves, Luka dominated both sides of the matchup. It wasn't a traffic cone Luka game. I mean, honestly, Ant has seen all of this stuff before, though, which is kind of what's so, I guess, baffling to me about it is like, it's not like Ant hasn't been blitzed on pick and rolls. Like there's a couple graphics going around today on Twitter that I can't remember who originally tweeted it, but it was one of the national NBA guys. And like Ant is the most efficient against blitzed pick and rolls in the league. Like the guy can handle late doubles, like gap help doesn't really seem to bother him. The only thing that kind of messes with him is zones, which like they didn't run a ton of zone tonight. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest issue tonight is just no one was good. Julius 5 for 11, like he struggled and didn't look super aggressive. Nas was like okay. Dante and Jaden were both 3 for 9. Like Io and TJ and Bones might have been the like 3 best players on the Wolves tonight, which is again like that's just not good when that's where you're at in a game, right?
Yeah, and it's like the bench has kicked up recently, maybe not the last 2 games, but obviously right before that, especially since the trade deadline and the Kyle acquisition. But yeah, you're right. If you're just kind of like grasping at straws and you're like, that's the only thing that went right, and probably wasn't that great of a game, and it pretty clearly wasn't, as we all saw. So
Yeah, and I mean, if there's a silver lining, I guess they get a fairly quick bounce back game against the Clippers. I mean,
Mhm.
hopefully they can go out and win that one. I mean, Cole mentions Rudy and Randall both got cooked. I mean, I'll be honest, like once that third quarter started and Lucas started seeing buckets go in, like it was just over. Like
Mhm.
they already couldn't contain DeAndre Ayton, which like that's never a good sign either. I guess kind of Benny, the last thing I want to ask just about this game, and this is, I know people have brought up like the turnover percentage with this team, which like it's kind of in line where it's been in the last years are what they are. The thing that's the most concerning to me though is their assist percentage is just, last time I checked, is like 18th in the league. Tonight again they have 22 assists on 37 baskets. I mean, the ISO stuff, I think, is the biggest issue with this team, where they just, if they're not getting ISO buckets to fall, it just falls apart immediately. I mean, I guess like if I had to like say what's going to cost this team in the playoffs, that's kind of where I think it's going to be. I mean, where do you think? Do you? I guess I'll phrase it this way: like, do you think it's a problem the amount of ISO that they play?
Um, yes, I do. Sorry, I did think about it for a half a second because I do think that there's times in the game where that, and like in especially in playoff basketball and half court basketball, where that is useful. And obviously, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you have one of the best to do it right now in the game in Ant. Obviously, that wasn't the case tonight. I'm not arguing that. But overall, it is an issue because I mean, you're just watching the game and you can pick any like four possession sequence where they missed all four of those shots. And I guarantee you it was maximum one pass. It was probably like three or four dribbles when you maybe needed one and you didn't have anything. And then they're kind of looking around like, oh, like what do I do next? Well, I guess I'll shoot it now. And it's like, well, that's not going to be a good shot. And I know that's not going in. Um, Kind of what I wrote down is like, again, this is kind of maybe a term I made up. Maybe it's somewhere out there. It was called shooter's remorse. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking in my head of like, all right, the ball even when they did swing it around, it's like, okay, I had a catch and shoot three that was semi open, didn't take it, and then all of a sudden I'm taking three dribbles, and I was like, I should have shot that one, so I'm just gonna take this one off the dribble, and it's like, again, I have no faith that that shot is going in, so it just seems like again, as we were talking about with like the snowball in effort and just in overall offense and defense and play. I think that snowballs as well, where it's like, all right, there's been 8 ISO possessions in a row, and we've had max one pass, and they're not dropping, and they're semi-contested, and we're not in a rhythm, and nobody's in a rhythm, and then it just continues to snowball on itself, and then all of a sudden you look up the scoreboard, Luka hits a few threes, and you're down by 19 points with 3 minutes left in the third, and that's just a tough spot to be. So.
That's exactly what happens. I mean,
That's literally that's my synopsis. So
like, literally, it's just like, well, Jaden hasn't touched the ball in like 35 real life minutes. And Luka just hits a dagger. So now everyone's, and like we've asked, like full disclosure, like we've asked Finch about this. Finch is pretty on message with kind of like, I think Finch realizes like it is what it is, right? Like he's not going to throw Julius and Ant completely out under the bus, but a lot of times when like this type of stuff happens, he'll do the like, yeah, guys are just trying to shoot themselves into a rhythm too much, the ISO, maybe we do it a little bit too much. We got to get back into our flow, which like I do kind of give him a little bit of a pass because like, what are you supposed to say? You can't just be like, yeah, Julius needs through the deck, but like at the same time, it is. I did look it up, by the way. They're 19th right now in assist percentage, averaging an assist on 61% of their makes, which it's just. I don't know. There's been teams certainly that go deep into the playoffs. The Wolves last year were very similar in their assist percentage, but like when you're not generating just open looks for guys, it's just. I'm not sure how you get past a round or two. Quite a few comments here. Ace has mentioned it. Pack Mentality's mentioned it just about Julius, which I mean, tough game for Julius, especially given that he walked in a Kobe jersey. love the Kobe energy, but woof, not a good night for him. I mean, any takeaways from Julius tonight, or was this just kind of another one of those kind of tough Julius games?
Yeah, I would say just another one of those tough Julius games, which is kind of interesting because I feel like there were points in the first and second quarter. I'm like, oh, there's like LA series from last year, Julius, of like I'm taking it to you and to the rim, but then that just, I mean, I was very much flash in the pan and only happened a couple of times, and then it just kind of went away. And just kind of what I was talking about of like he did that exact thing of what I'm talking about of like he caught one, was semi-open, like maybe we don't love Julius taking a catch and shoot three, but then he takes 3 dribbles and then takes a step back, and it's like, why are you doing that? Like that makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah.
And then what happened is the next possession, Ant comes down. He's like, well, you just took one, and I didn't really like that shot that you took, so I'm going to take my own step in 3, but he wasn't in rhythm either, like we were just talking about. So I just think it was just another one of those Julius Funk games, which sucks because they seem to be stacking up, and it's been pretty much since the All-Star break. And I'm seeing a lot of the comments here, in that they're right. Like he is a little bit of like he can be the one that sets other people up, but he can also be the one that if it sticks too much with him, then it goes downhill pretty quickly. So yeah.
And I mean, to your point, like 2 assists, 2 turnovers when he is kind of the. Like this team, it's so hard to like diagnose who the point guard is because like Finch calls Ant the point guard. Dante statistically is like listed on a stat sheet as the point guard. Julius does everything like offensively for this team. So like I kind of consider him the point guard, or at least like the half court point guard. And when he's having a game like tonight where it's 2 assists, 2 turnovers, I mean, a lot of just kind of holding the ball. And it does seem like this team, kind of to your shooter's remorse point, it's almost like they get afraid that they're not going to get the ball passed back to them. So like Dante then starts pulling it from like the third court logo. And then you have Nas doing, which Nas had like an okay game. I'm not trying to like crap on Nas for Nas trying to be like the one bright spot out of the main rotation. But like, then he starts doing like Nas crazy spin move things, and Jaden and Kyle are like the only 2 guys passing, and they never get the ball back. So I imagine it kind of sucks to be Kyle and Jaden on nights like this. But like it is, you know, as Cole says, it is kind of crazy that and scary that we only go as far as Randall goes. Like if he's able to really kind of lock in before the playoffs, then certainly this team will have a chance. But like if from December to now is the Julius Randle we get, which I mean it's going on 4 months of a slump now, I mean it's hard to see them winning more than a round, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that because I mean he was the biggest X factor last year, right? Like he was awesome in the first 2 playoff series, one of the best players in the playoffs period, I would say. And then the OKC series hit, and obviously that's a bad matchup for him. I think we've seen that in every time that we've played him in the last couple of years. But his production dipped, and they got packed in 5. Like, I mean, it's interesting because like I feel like that, you know, every team has kind of like 1 or 2 of those guys that aren't their main guy, and like obviously like this team goes as far as Ant goes, but I mean I think we're all in the right in saying that like Julius is obviously a big part of that. And if you can reasonably expect Ant outside of tonight to perform at a pretty high level, then like the one that is you're getting fluctuating performances from is Julius. And that's when you kind of see the ceiling versus the floor of this team.
And I mean, Ray mentions here Randall is going to get his and screw everybody else. I don't think he goes into a game thinking that. I think in certain games, it gets to a point where he's just like, no one else is hitting a shot. I might as well try, which like, that's what I would do, but I'm also not an NBA player. But I do think it gets to a point in some of these games where Randall's just like, I gotta do something, which I mean, I guess credit to Randall because like at least he has like the confidence to try and get something. There's been a couple other people bringing up Nas being maybe the starter, Randall coming off the bench. Do you see any possibility of that, Benny?
Obviously, I wouldn't say this season. I mean, I think it's like fairly certain that if they don't either make it to the finals or win the finals, like some major change is going to happen. And I don't really want to speculate what that is, especially not right now on March 11th. I'm a big believer in like, I want to see how things play out before I'm willing to stake my claim on one big move or the next. But I think that is a pretty clear thing. So I don't see that Nas slotting into the starting lineup this season. I don't think Finch will do that. And I mean, realistically, like if you can get Randall firing on all cylinders, kind of like what we just talked about, big if, of course, a big if. But if you can get him firing on all cylinders, like that's when you unlock the ceiling of this team. Because realistically, like just kind of in terms of a playmaking standpoint, I'm giving Julius Randle that edge, and pretty clearly, like we saw tonight, they do need that from that position because you're looking around, you're talking about the point guard thing, like who else is going to do it? You know,
That's where it gets tough, and like I hate to keep going back to Mike Conley, but it's just like, man, I wish Mike Conley was just good this year. Because like so many of these problems get fixed just by like an adult being out there that's like gets the inbound pass and like runs something instead of does something weird, which I mean, he just can't do it anymore. And this team loves doing weird stuff. But Benny, I'm going to throw us over to a couple ads here. When we get back, a couple people have asked like if we notice what team we think is better this year or last year. Also some more chats just about starting lineup, point guard, that type of stuff. But first, ads. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. Well, if there is a positive, we should probably mention that the WNBA and WNBA Players Association are on hour 10 of a meeting today. Closed door, no one has left the hotel or the building yet. 10 hours of CBA meeting. It's officially past the deadline, but my guess is if they're able to hammer something out in the wee mornings. But
figure it out. I'll take that.
Yeah. At least we know they're really trying now, which, hey, you know, it works. Yeah. I mean, I was, while those ads were going, and I was looking on Twitter to see if there's a new CBA, because if that happens, I'm going to be up later than I thought tonight. But like, what I will say is Finch did bench D'Lo for Jordan McLaughlin in that Grizzlies series 5 years ago. Like, Finch did bench Rudy for most of that OKC series. Like, I do think in the playoffs, if this is the version of Randall that we're getting, I don't think Finch is going to hesitate to get Kyle out there more or Nas out there. Honestly, I think it would probably be more Kyle, which Wolves fans are torn on Kyle Anderson. I don't know if 30 minutes of Kyle wins a championship, but like he can kind of do most of what Randall can. But I do want to ask, let's get into the Finch thing here first, because a couple people have asked like what our thoughts are on Finch. Obviously, March 11th, they're not going to fire Finch on March 12th. I would be shocked if they fire him before the Clippers game. I do think if they don't make a conference finals, though, he starts next year on the hot seat. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make. I mean, like they've made it the last 2 years, and like I don't know, it's kind of hard to be like, all right, that's the benchmark that he has to reach every single year. But that is totally fair. I mean, you do see patterns emerge, right? Like there are games where the team shows up not ready to play, and you can blame that on the coach, or you can blame that on the players. But I don't know. Whenever I think about the Finch thing, I just struggle with the idea of like him and Ant's relationship is like first and foremost like the biggest thing that one Finch has going for him, but also, I mean, I don't even like to put this out in the air because again, it's way too early to even think about this at all. But like, if you think about the possibility of Anthony Edwards leaving Minnesota at any point, generally speaking, I could see that being the first domino in that being the case, right? Because of their relationship, because of how they've grown together over the past few years. So I just always, it gets to be a slippery slope where it's easy to be like, hey, just fire him, get him out, get somebody new in. It's like, okay, let's look at other examples across the league of like, okay, when has that worked out for the better? I mean, maybe Denver, right? Like, and that was Adelman as a backup, but like Doc Rivers didn't fix the Bucks, and now look at where they're at. I don't know, like the Knicks aren't like they're fine this year, but it's not like Mike Brown has taken them to some whole new level or anything like that. So I just think you have to be very careful with how you operate with that, specifically for that reason. And I'm not claiming that Finch is above, criticism or anything like that. Like I definitely have my qualms with him. Like you can talk about the timeouts thing. I'm less so on the like structured offense thing because honestly, like I truly do believe that not many NBA offenses around the league are running like structured offense like a lot of people think they are. Yeah. I think it is a lot of concept-based stuff. And Finch is a little bit looser on said concepts because he wants to try to get the ball movement, but pretty clearly he isn't putting enough in there because offense like tonight happens a lot. So that's kind of my whole Finch spiel, if that was organized okay.
I agree with that. Again, like I agree with everything. Like Ant needs to be priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way down to like 45 for this team. If Ant doesn't want Finch gone, Finch is going to have a job. Like it just, that's the reality of it. I know people can say like, man, Tim Connelly, like you got to move that. You got to make the move. You got to get a guy in here that's going to win a championship. Like it's really hard to win a championship. And like when your star player has like a father-son relationship, which like, that's not me saying it. Like that's Chris Hine in his book saying it, that like they have a special bond. Like it's just really hard to pull that trigger if you're the Wolves. Because then if you get rid of Finch and it goes backwards for 2 years, then you're looking at Ant just gone. Like,
yeah, that expedites.
You fired my pseudo dad. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, the other thing I'll say is like Finch, having known and like when he got hired here, I watched a ton of like Finch Rio Grande Valley Vipers like tape and like what he did in New Orleans, and like his ideal offense is the like San Antonio Spurs, Golden State Warriors, like beautiful game, ball movement. Boris Diaw is scoring 12 points, who shout out to whoever was on the broadcast that brought up Kyle Anderson and Boris Diaw. Boris was a better shooter, but we can argue about that later. But like, I just think this team is so poorly fit for what Finch wants to coach. Like Julius Randle, I know like people have the like, Finch babies Randle and all those comments that go on the Twitterverse, but like Julius Randle as the offensive hub is like the worst case scenario for a Finch offense. Like not having a lead guard is a horrible outcome for a Finch offense. Like having a bunch of players that aren't like at the stage of their career yet where they can read and react to off ball movement is a really bad roster setup for a Finch lineup. And then you look at like the defensive side of it. Like, I just don't know what more Finch can do when like the two stars of the team are the ones that are like admittedly saying they didn't bring effort in multiple games. Like, I just don't know what his hands are kind of tied. You can only pop off so many times. I mean, some people have brought up like Pablo Prigioni. I'll be honest, Pablo's his offensive coordinator. Like all of the offensive sets and game plans, like 90% of it is Pablo. So like if you hate the offense, like that's kind of Pablo and Finch doing it in tandem. Same with like Elston Turner and the defense. Kind of the last thing I would add is like a couple of people have brought up like the cat trade. Like, I don't think this is going to be a Tim Connolly decision to get rid of Finch. Like, I think this is over Tim Connolly's head. Like, I think if you're going to fire the only coach that your like franchise savior has known, I mean, Ryan Saunders was here for like 50 games. But that's like, I think that's an ownership thing. Like, I think that has to be like an A-Rod Laurie and Tim Connolly in a room. The other thing I'll just add, Benny, before I throw it over to you is like GM usually gets one coach firing. So like if I'm Tim Connolly, I would rather play this upcoming off season out where you can flip Julius, do whatever you have to do to get this roster more in tuned. And then if that goes bad, get rid of Finch and say like the guy just couldn't do it and get somebody in, then like get somebody new in, change the whole roster, and then open yourself up to being like fired next year.
Yeah.
I just think from like a self-preservation move, it makes more sense for Tim to wait until like midway through next year. But Benny, I threw a lot of things out there. Anything you want to add to them?
No, that's a really good point you made kind of at the end there, where it's like, I mean, you're talking that is a good point of like track record with GMs and coaches of like you get one coach firing within that. And I mean, I guess like what I was kind of thinking about is like we do kind of have a recent precedent for this exact thing of Tim Connolly sticking with a head coach for far longer than the Denver fan base probably wanted him to, and obviously Connolly left before they won the championship, but like. How I honestly don't know off the top of my head, but like how many years did Connolly and Malone partner together, and Malone ran into that wall over and over again, and like you could claim that some of that was injuries, like the Jamal Murray ACL thing and other stuff, but how many times did like he run into the wall before he broke through? And I think it's very easy to be like, all right, we're putting these expectations on this season. We should have high expectations for this team. I mean, they did go and make it to the Final Four in each of the last 2 years. But I guess I just mean like everything. I say growth, breaking through the wall isn't necessarily like sometimes you can do it without changing a whole bunch. So. Again, and I'm not saying like that's the exact same situation, and Malone and Finch are equal, but I mean, we do have like a recent precedent of Tim Connolly sticking to his guns within that. So yeah.
You talked just long enough for me to look it up. Connolly and Malone overlapped for 7 seasons. First 2 years of Connolly in Denver was Brian Shaw. Blast from the past there. The next 7 were Michael Malone, and then Malone won it the year Connolly left. So that 8th season finally got it, which I am doing important research. So I am looking at my phone.
We are improving the quality of the show. All right, so.
Someday I'll have a producer. Today is not that day. But I think, again, if we're going on track record, I mean, Connolly and Malone, I don't think their relationship was always fantastic. I think it might have been. I mean, Malone is certainly more of like a fiery. Appreciate you taking that, Wilfer. A more fiery like coach, much more like yelling on the sideline and popping veins out of his head. But like he kind of had the same issues that Finch had, where he's playing a ton of veterans, he's playing a tight rotation, not really developing young players. I mean, you look at Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, the 2 fellows they traded for Aaron Gordon that kind of washed out, whose names I'm both forgetting. Monte Morris, even like
Is that him?
RJ Hampton. Yep. He did not work out well, but RJ Hampton was one of them. Like Malone kind of had the same tendency. I think what's different is, I guess what kind of kept them both safe is like Jokic had a really good relationship with Malone. Ant has a really good relationship with Finch. You know, if this season ends up kind of flaming out in the first or second round, then I think next season, you know, Finch is going to have new toys to play with and maybe some better fitting roster construction things. And then it's off to the races at that point. Because if Finch can't kind of get him over the hump after that, then I think it really becomes a conversation here. Farah adds, I'm genuinely lost and confused about how I feel about this team.
Never know what you
first
get.
it says easy, they lost their energy. I mean, I do think a lot of that is true. Like, and maybe we'll close with this, Benny, but just like there does seem to be this like push and pull where Finch, Gobert, Ants, Jaden, like everyone kind of says the right thing, that this team needs to be a defensive identity team to get to where they want to go. But then it really seems like it does not want to play defense consistently. And that's kind of up and down the roster. I mean, do you think it is kind of as easy as they've just lost that identity of who they are? And that's kind of why they're in this, they're top 10 and everything, but not really elite at anything.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting point because I mean, like you think about the team from 2 years ago, and I think we all have extremely fond memories of that, and maybe that's unfair, you know, where it's like, oh, that's such pie in the sky of like such a high bar to reach because it was just such a magical fairyland season that kind of came out of nowhere. But it is an interesting point of like that team did have an identity and they brought that every single night. And that's how you win a lot, especially in the regular season. When I think that you and me and everybody else who was watching, like when you sit down and watch a game, you're like, okay, what can we expect to happen tonight? And I think a lot of us would answer that question like, I have no idea. And I mean, and like sometimes that's a good thing, and it's a little bit of a mystery box though. And I think it's tough where it's like, okay, like what are the list of identities that they could potentially have? And I do think it stems from your best players. So it's like, okay, we got to think about what Ant is, and it's like, well, Ant is this really awesome offensive player. But I don't know. I think it's a little bit tough, and you have to get a little bit more into the weeds in terms of like what an identity is, rather than just loosely basing it on like offense or defense. I just think that like it was a defensive identity 2 years ago of like an overarching branch, but more it was just like, hey, we're all playing together for this common goal, and we know exactly what we want to do. We want to play really hard on the perimeter, and we know we got Rudy Gobert cleaning up on the back end. So, like, I think that there's ways that you can get a little bit more into the details of, like, having an identity rather than it just being kind of this broad overview of, like, offense versus defense.
Yeah, I think 2 years ago it's interesting because I think the identity more than anything was effort. Like, they just played hard, which I think that's what's, to me, covering this team and kind of being around them multiple days a week is just like, that's what's so frustrating is so many of these players were on that team. And the guys that aren't, like Dante is a high effort dude. Like Io is a high effort dude. Like Bones might not be great on defense, but he's fast. Like he takes calories. Like, and it just does seem like and I hate calling guys effort out because I just don't know, right? Like you never do. But like when Ant's sitting there telling us in the media that like, yeah, we just didn't bring it tonight, or Finch is saying like, yeah, they just didn't execute the game plan. Like at some point, like it is kind of just, you know, their will to go in and like want to win a game, which, you know, I kind of have this, you know, like they come in that first year and I think it's new, right? So they all are playing hard. They kind of take that Denver game, Cat, this is what movies is made of, all of that nonsense. And like they make the Western Conference Finals. And then last year was just so different, right? Like they're kind of a middling team up until Christmas. They just go on a tear at the end of the year, get in as a 6 seed, make it back to the Western Conference Finals. Like, I don't know. Maybe it is this team just needs to get really punched in the mouth and knocked out of the first round so that they kind of mature a little bit faster. But then at the same time, it's like, you know, there's a reason why most people don't start to win championships until they're 27 or 28. And even if you look at the Tatums, the Stephs, the Giannis's that won it a little bit earlier, it's like they got punched in the mouth like really early in their career.
Yeah, and a lot, like over and over. I guess just quick question for you, as I was just thinking about, like, in like a perfect ideal world, like if you got to kind of like think about and pick the identity of this roster, and obviously like we talked about the problems for the last 40 minutes, I guess I'm just thinking of like if things were firing on all cylinders and all things were going pretty well, like what would be like the identity in your head? What does that gravitate towards and what does that look like?
So this might be controversial, but I would say like 20, like prime James Harden Houston. Like just put as many shooters out there as you can. Like, I know Julius is a high usage. He needs his touches. Screw that, right? Like, Julius, you're now an above the break 3-point shooter and a guy that gets it off the catch. And Ant is just everything. That's how I'd kind of run this. Obviously, egos prevent that from happening. Like, Randall needs his touches. Rudy needs some touches on offense, but like if I could snap my fingers like this, I think Ant is at that point now where he could be that level of Harden. Like, he's not getting the 11 assists yet, but James Harden also didn't start to get those 11 assists until his 3rd or 4th year in Houston. You look at the like roster similarity. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo is a pretty facsimile Eric Gordon. Io is a pretty similar Pat Bev. Like, they didn't have a natural point guard. Trevor Ariza and Jaden are pretty similar. Gobert and Capella. Julius just needs to be Ryan Anderson, which unfortunately I think that is a very big insult to Julius Randle if we're telling him to be Ryan Anderson. But like, I honestly think that would be how to kind of maximize this, is maybe dip to like 12th or 15th in defense, but be the best offensive team in the league. And just everything is heliocentric Ant, and then figure it out this offseason. Fix it later.
Yeah, just lean into it. Let's get Ant to 31, 32. Let's see how high we can get him, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he can read the game well enough now. And it's kind of one of those things where it's just, like, Julius has been in the league for so long and is such an accomplished scorer, and like it worked with him last year, that I don't think you can just throw him to the side. But honestly, for this team to get like the most out of it, that might be the move in the playoffs. I don't know, Benny, I'll ask you the same question. Like, how do you feel this team could most maximize it?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, I never even really like thought about that. And I love that in terms of like what I was talking about, of like, I think identity has to be broken down a little bit more than just like you're more of an offensive or a defensive team. And I think that perfectly, you did it great with that. So that was really interesting and really cool. So anyway, just had to say that. But I don't know, I think what I immediately gravitate towards, like, because I'm thinking about like the best 2 players on the roster are probably Ant and Julius, right? Like, I don't know if that's really an argument, but I'm like, okay, what are those guys like? What are they good at? What do they have in common? And to me, it's just like immediately I think of strength.
Yeah.
They are both really, really strong, powerful drivers. Obviously, Ant has the shot way more, but I think that there's a way like that you can combine that with Rudy's offensive rebounding strength and maybe like Jaden and Dante's toughness. You know, obviously they're a little bit more like finesse out. I mean, not out. Dante's more outside, but Jaden's more, you know, like kind of more finesse touch player. Kind of same thing with that. Like, I think that there's a way that you can tap into that more and be like, not necessarily like Pistons level of like we're just gonna out physical you, but like we're gonna out strength you and we're gonna drive with the ball right down your throat and we're gonna hit you and you're not gonna like it and we're gonna do that on offense. So I just think that there's a way that they can better maximize that, and I haven't necessarily like fleshed out like, oh, here's the step-by-step process of how to do that, but that's just what I think in my head of like a way to tap into an identity that your theoretical 2 best players have in their bags already.
I think that's probably more realistic of the play of just be like, we're going to be this bruising team that it's going to suck to play against. I mean, I hope they figure it out because that's honestly what they were last year in the playoffs. Like it looked like it physically sucked to play against them.
Yeah.
Real quick, a couple people are mentioning Jaden, and I just have to shout out Kingabee. She's puts up content on TikTok, also over on Twitter. She was the guest on the last post game podcast live stream thing, and she mentioned that Jaden's significant other is in over in Europe or something like that for a fashion show. And what I'm not saying that Jaden being a single parent has been this slump, but I've heard crazier reckless speculations on other podcasts. I don't know, man. Maybe Jaden's just soloing two children under two years old and is in desperate need of a nap. Pack mentality says she's back. I would hope she's back because Jaden's in LA now. But
yeah, who's watching the kids?
They're just fending. Jaden left them with some bottles. They'll be fine.
Yeah,
but, like, I don't know. I do think there is something to this weird, like, because he was playing lights out until about a week ago.
Yeah.
And Kingabee was just like, yeah, it kind of coincided exactly with her going overseas. And I was like,
yeah. I wonder, Yeah, I don't know. I don't like maybe I think he hasn't been great. Obviously he's been very good the last couple games, but I don't know. I guess I don't really worry about that because I just feel like he's going to come back and he's going to have one of those hyper efficient, 11 of 14 games where he scores 25 points. And then he's going to string together some good performances. Like, I don't know. I trust that to bounce back. And obviously that doesn't excuse like him really not bringing it these last couple of games, but I don't know. I think that's pretty low on my list of worries personally. So
I'm with, I wouldn't say it's at the lowest, but like Ant having a really weird shooting night and then not being very aggressive in the second half was weird. Julius's overall December to now has been stressing me out. And then like the Rudy stuff where it's like, it seems like when they do pass Rudy the ball, they genuinely do really well. But then as soon as Rudy like punts it into the 10th row, like then it just goes off the rails. So I don't know. I realize I'm one of the few people that's arguing for more Rudy Gobert involvement on offense, but that's kind of where my life has taken me. Benny, I do want to give you the opportunity though. Anything you want to plug? Where can people find you? Anything fun coming out on Canis for you?
Not coming up, honestly. I had a bit kind of on the calendar to sit down. I'm like, I should write something, I like to keep it more positively skewed because I just really like basketball. So I usually talk about the positive parts of it. So hopefully the Wolves kind of kick it back into gear here and then I can get a little more inspired on that. But otherwise, you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Benny _Hughes. I usually tweet on some of the games. Sometimes I just like to watch them, and not check social media because, especially on a game like tonight, it gets me a little sad on occasion. So sometimes I just like to watch them, but other times I do like to partake, like to submit some of my thoughts. And I love to hear from all you guys. I really love to kind of like communicate back and forth and being like, okay, this is kind of what I'm seeing. What are you seeing? Like, what is everybody seeing? Because it kind of helps me like check myself, but also it's just like. It's like fun to talk about. We all have a very similar interest, and I think that's cool. So, yeah.
Community is everything. That's what we're learning. All right. For people that joined into this a little bit late or early, I don't know what we call 1:30 in the morning, but this does get published over on YouTube and X as soon as I hit end stream here. It comes out as a podcast. That'll be at 7 a.m. in just 5.5 hours from now. If you want to get some sleep before catching up on everything. And then we'll be back tomorrow after that Clippers game. I want to say another Canis alum, Tim Garrison, is going to be on with me tomorrow. Yeah, Tim Garrison is joining me tomorrow. So we'll talk cap and all sorts of fun analytical-y thingies, or I'll derail the entire thing and we'll be here again. But thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you tomorrow after the Clippers.